Hello King's Community Church, it's really good to be able to share with you today. And my simple intent for this message is that it will encourage us and it will raise our faith and our expectation of what God can do in our lives. Now, this little word has been going around my mind for a couple of months now, and it all started with a song. And it's a song that you may know because it has been around for a number of years. It was originally by a Nigerian singer-songwriter, and it's been covered by a number of worship bands across the world. And the song is called Waymaker. And what I love about this song is that in the chorus, the songwriter just declares and just affirms who God is. And she says, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. I'll just say that again. She sings, Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. And of course, she hasn't just plucked these ideas from nowhere. These are all truths about God that are found in his word. So for example, we know that Jesus says, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will know the light that brings life. And so he is our light in the darkness. In Hebrews, it talks about how God always keeps his promises. He who promised is faithful. He is our promise keeper. But the truth that I just want us to think about for a little while today is the idea that God is a waymaker. He makes a way where there appears to be no way. Now, I sometimes think it'd be interesting to sort of look back on our journey so far, our lives, as a map in pictures, you know, with perhaps different circumstances being represented by different terrains. So, for example, when life has been good and easy, we might see a very level, wide, smooth path. At other times when there's been struggles, we might see an incline in the path and perhaps it becomes a bit more rocky and unsteady. We might see decisions that we've had to make represented as a T-junction or a crossroad. We might see that all-important, the most important decision we'll ever make when we first encountered Jesus and invited him onto this journey with us. We might see that as a mountaintop experience. But the picture that I want to bring to you in the light of this idea of God being our waymaker is when we're walking along a path and then suddenly it seems like the path just stops, it grinds to a halt, and we cannot see a way forward. It seems impossible to progress. It's not like we can decide to go to the left or the right, it's just that there is no way forward. What we need is a breakthrough, what we need is a clear path, and it's at those times. And perhaps you can relate to that right now. Maybe it's a circumstance that you're in. Maybe it's a situation that you've been praying about for a really long time. Maybe it's a mindset. Maybe it's an emotional issue. But, you know, you feel at the moment like you need a breakthrough, like there is no clear way to progress forward. I just want to encourage you with the truth that God is a waymaker and he will bring breakthrough and he can make a way even when there appears to be no way, because he is also our miracle worker. He's our light in the darkness and he always keeps his promises. Now, when I thought about a story in the Bible or a reference to sort of illustrate God being our waymaker, my mind went straight to the story in Exodus, and perhaps yours does too, of the children of Israel leaving Egypt and beginning their journey towards the promised land. And there's that particular moment, which you'll know well if you've read it for yourself or if you've watched good old Charlton Heston in the Ten Commandments, where the children of Israel, they're on their journey, they're on a procession out of Egypt, and then suddenly they are faced with the Red Sea. It's an obstacle in their way. To make matters worse, after not too long, the Pharaoh changed his mind, so he sends his chariots and his army to chase down the Israelites and bring them back. So here you have the Israelites, they're coming out of Egypt, but now their journey has come to a standstill because there is no pathway forward. It seems impossible. Naturally speaking, it's impossible to progress forward. They're in an impossible situation, except that God is with them. And so, of course, you'll know what happens. They cry out for help, and Moses stretches his arm out, and before their very eyes, an incredible miracle happens because the Red Sea begins to part. And where there was no way, there was no clear way forward it was impossible, suddenly God has made a way through the Red Sea for the Israelites to continue their journey. They make it through and they continue their journey to the Promised Land. Now, as I thought about this story, I just thought of just a few truths that could help us in our experience that we're living through right now. Maybe right now this is for you. You'll feel like you're facing a situation. It might not be the whole of your life. It might just be a part where you just need a breakthrough and it feels really impossible. Maybe you just want to store this up for future reference, or maybe, it might be something you want to share with somebody else because you know those times when you listen to someone else's story and you just don't have the answers, but you want to encourage them. Well, this could be an encouragement for somebody else. But God can make a way where there seems to be no way. And the first truth is this. Now, sometimes when I've thought about this story of the Israelites leaving Egypt, I've sometimes pictured it as them kind of frantically grabbing their possessions and kind of running out, looking behind them, seeing if they're being chased, and then suddenly they're faced with the Red Sea and it's almost accidental. However, when you read those verses in Exodus, and as I did afresh for today, what I realised again is that, God led them to the Red Sea. That is the pathway that he chose for them. He actually says that, he could have taken them on a different route, which would have been a shorter distance to the Promised Land. However, he knew that going that way, they would face a Philistine army and they weren't quite ready for that. So he chose to lead them to the Red Sea. He led them there. It wasn't accidental, he led them there. And what I want to say is that sometimes it can feel like we're in a situation, we're facing an impossible circumstance, and we think, I don't know how I'm going to get through it. And you think, God, is this an accident? How did I get here? Why have you led me here? Well, the reason that God led the Israelites there was because he had a very different perspective. He had a far greater perspective, because not only did he know that they weren't ready for a different way, but also he already knew how he was going to deliver them, how he was going to make a way, what miracle he was going to perform, what breakthrough he was going to bring. In the same way, God may have led you somewhere where it feels a little bit difficult, it feels impossible, but he already knows. He has a greater perspective. He knows the breakthrough he will bring in the right time. He knows the miracle that he's going to perform, which is going to just astound you. He knows the way that he is going to forge, even though right now we can't see it. And we just have to trust him. And I know that is really hard at times, but we just need to trust God. His perspective is greater than ours. He knows what we can handle. He knows how he's going to bring us through a situation, and he will bring us through in his timing, according to his will. He will bring breakthrough. He will bring us out the other side. And in the meantime, we just have to trust him and know that his ways are greater than ours. His thoughts are greater and higher than ours too. Now, the second little truth that I just want to bring you is that, maybe God could have taken them around the Red Sea. He could have led them a different way. But sometimes God takes us through something on purpose, because it is the way that he shows his power, his might, his astounding faithfulness and love for us. And at the same time, it produces in us a level of dependency and trust that going around a problem or a situation could never do. Yes, they probably would have liked to have gone around it. Maybe he could have even built a bridge over it. But there's something about going through a situation step by step with God by our side that produces something in us, character and trust like nothing else. I mean, you just picture being one of those Israelites. You see the water before you dry up. You see the land beginning to materialize in front of you, and then you're walking on dry land with the water on either side. Imagine a big wall of water on either side. What an incredible miracle. And knowing that God is doing this. God is making this happen out of his love. He's making it happen out of his sheer power and his miraculous nature. He's leading us through. And as he leads us through that kind of trust and dependency, my goodness, it grows, and it grows like nothing else could do. If we went round it, it wouldn't be the same, wouldn't it? Although we'd quite like to at times, I know. But going through something, being led by God, step by step, really accomplishes something in us like nothing else can. So although it's difficult and we don't want to go through it, just know that as we do go through it, God is with us, and he will accomplish something in us as well as in our surroundings. The third and final kind of little thought that I had to encourage us is that this story of the Red Sea was talked about for generations and generations and generations to come. It's not just mentioned in the book of Exodus, it's in Joshua, it's referenced in Nehemiah, in Psalms, in Hebrews, in the Acts of the Apostles, in Isaiah. It is referenced many, many times because it is an incredible story of God's faithfulness, his love, his amazing power, and his ability to break through and make a way where there seems to be no way. And in the same way, when God brings us through our situation, and he will bring us through, he will break through, he will answer our prayers, he will bring us through it, we will have a story to tell. A story to tell others of God's love and faithfulness and his deliverance. A story to tell to those who don't know yet what God is like and what his love is like. A story to tell our children, maybe even our grandchildren. But it will give us a testimony, a story that we can speak about to others of God's faithfulness and our trust in him. It's hard, isn't it, at times when we feel like there isn't a way, but let me say one more time that God is our way maker. He wants to make a way where there appears to be no way. In Isaiah, God even says, forget all that. Forget about the Red Sea and the miracles I've done there, because I'm going to do a new thing. He says something that nothing else compares to. And he talks about how he's going to make a pathway through the wilderness and create rivers in the dry wasteland. Maybe today your kind of situation feels nothing like a body of water. Maybe it feels like a wasteland. Perhaps you're tired, you're looking ahead and you're thinking, I can't get through this because I don't have the strength or the energy and it's too hard. Well, let me tell you that God will make a way. He will bring fresh hope, fresh life, renewed joy as you just trust him, as you acknowledge that his perspective is greater than ours, as we acknowledge that, sometimes bringing us through something will produce a trust and a dependency like no other, and knowing that we will have an amazing story to tell. God is our way maker. He will make a way where there seems to be no way.